Why did Mike Israetel, the man known for dissecting fitness myths with surgical precision, finally decide to break his silence on Sam Sulek? For months, fans have watched the tension build between two completely different worlds, one driven by science, data, and slow precision, the other fueled by raw intensity, viral workouts, and almost mythic transformation. Sam Sulek's meteoric rise has shaken the fitness scene, inspiring millions while quietly dividing the community. And somewhere in the middle of all that noise, Mike had a lot to say. He just hadn't said it yet. But now he has. And what he revealed exposes a much deeper rift in the world of modern bodybuilding. From conflicting training philosophies to hidden criticisms and unspoken rivalries, this isn't just about two fitness influencers. It's about the fight for the soul of bodybuilding itself. Because behind the gym lights, sponsorship deals, and viral clips lies a truth that's been simmering for months. And it's finally boiling over. Before we get into the real drama, let's take a closer look at the man at the center of it all, Sam Sulek, a name that's now everywhere in the fitness world. Yet just a couple of years ago, he was a relative unknown. Sam didn't rise through traditional bodybuilding channels or rely on sponsorships and agencies to gain visibility. Instead, he carved his own path, dominating social media with a brand built on raw power, unfiltered authenticity, and an approach that flies in the face of polished corporate fitness culture. Sam is young, brash, and unashamedly intense, a bodybuilder who took the world by storm, practically overnight. His YouTube and Instagram exploded in views, and it wasn't just because of his physique. Sure, he has a jaw-dropping transformation, but what really set him apart was his sheer honesty. Every post feels like an intimate look at his life. No fancy editing, no curated persona. Just Sam, a camera, and his audience. Whether he's lifting insane weights, eating what seems like an endless supply of food, or giving fans a glimpse into his world, there's nothing polished about it. It's all raw and real, and that's exactly why it resonated with millions. His training style? Hardcore. Sam's workouts are as no-nonsense as they come. Heavy compound lifts, minimal rest, and an attitude that says push yourself until you can't anymore. It's the kind of training philosophy that appeals to the hardcore bodybuilders, the ones who've been doing this for years, but with a fresh twist. Sam isn't obsessed with intricate programs or slow progressions. He's all about lifting heavy, eating big, and pushing his limits without worrying about what anyone else thinks. There's a certain old-school charm to his approach, but it's filtered through the lens of Gen Z. And then there's his diet. To say Sam eats a lot would be an understatement. We're talking about an almost comically high caloric intake, huge bulking phases, massive meals that could feed a small army, and the kind of commitment to eating that most people wouldn't dream of. It's not for the faint of heart, but for Sam, it's just part of the process. Unlike many influencers, he doesn't sugarcoat the reality. He's not living off shakes and protein bars in between sponsored posts. His transformation is about real, unapologetic effort, and he's not shy about sharing the struggles that come with it. For many fans, that's exactly what makes Sam stand out. His grind isn't hidden behind a highlight reel of perfectly staged moments. He lives it, day in and day out. However, Sam's rise to fame isn't just about lifting heavy and eating massive meals. It's about the way he positioned himself as the anti-influencer. Unlike so many fitness personalities, Sam isn't trying to sell you the latest supplement stack or fitness program. He's not pushing some hyper-optimized plan for the perfect body or preaching about perfect macros. He's simply Sam, a guy who lifts heavy, eats big, and shares his journey with those who care to follow. No pretenses, no gimmicks. That's what makes him so relatable and so compelling. And it's this rawness that has captured the attention of the fitness community and beyond. Sam isn't trying to be anyone he's not. He's not posing for the camera or trying to make fitness look easy. He's making it look achievable, relatable, and most importantly, human. And in an era of hyper-curated social media influencers, it's no surprise that Sam's authenticity has resonated so strongly with his growing audience. He's the kind of figure that fans can root for because he's not above them, he's right there with them, grinding it out just like they would. But as quickly as Sam's star rose, the scrutiny followed. It was almost inevitable. In a world where every transformation is questioned, every lift analyzed, Sam's meteoric rise left even the most seasoned professionals scratching their heads. How was he able to achieve so much, so fast? Was there more to the story than just hard work and dedication? And this is where Mike Israetel enters the picture. The man who's built a reputation for debunking fitness myths, offering science-backed advice, and calling out the bro science that pervades much of the industry. Mike's perspective, grounded in evidence and research, was always going to clash with Sam's more Wild West approach to training. But what happens when these two worlds collide? That's what we're about to find out. To understand the growing tension between Mike and Sam Sulek, you first need to understand who Mike really is, and why his words carry so much weight in the fitness world. Mike isn't just another bodybuilder flexing for the camera. He's an exercise scientist, an educator, and one of the few people in the fitness industry who can blend scientific precision with real-world experience. With a PhD in sport physiology from East Tennessee State University, Mike has spent decades studying how the human body responds to training, diet, and recovery. He's taught at universities, coached elite athletes, and helped thousands of everyday gym-goers understand the why behind the what. In a space where trends come and go faster than new workout challenges on TikTok, Mike represents something different: stability, credibility, and accountability. He's not chasing viral fame, he's chasing truth. His deep understanding of exercise science gives him the tools to break down complex topics into practical advice anyone can apply. Whether he's explaining the mechanics of hypertrophy or the difference between training volume and intensity, Mike brings data and experience to the table in a way that few others can. But Mike isn't just a scientist locked away in a lab, he's walked the walk. As a competitive bodybuilder and coach, he knows the grind firsthand. He's experienced the fatigue, the injuries, the hunger, and the discipline it takes to sculpt a physique. Yet, unlike many influencers who focus purely on aesthetics, Mike's philosophy is rooted in longevity and optimization. He believes fitness should enhance your life, not consume it. His mantra is simple: train smart, eat smart, and respect the science. As the co-founder of Renaissance Periodization RP, Mike has built an entire brand around evidence-based training and nutrition. RP isn't about flashy marketing or selling shortcuts. It's about applying scientific principles to get real sustainable results. Through RP, Mike and his team have created programs used by professional athletes, powerlifters, and bodybuilders across the globe. He's also authored several books and research articles, each aimed at helping people cut through misinformation and focus on what actually works. And perhaps more than anything, Mike is known for his no-nonsense attitude toward bro science. He's made a career out of debunking fitness myths and calling out influencers who promote dangerous or unrealistic practices. From criticizing poor lifting form to exposing unsustainable diet fads, Mike doesn't hesitate to challenge misinformation, even when it means stepping on a few egos along the way. His honesty has made him both respected and controversial. Fans see him as a truth teller in an industry full of noise, while critics sometimes label him as condescending or overly rigid. But one thing is undeniable: when Mike speaks, the fitness world listens. And that's what makes his voice so important. In a culture obsessed with quick results and aesthetic perfection, Mike reminds people that the best bodies aren't built overnight, they're built with patience, consistency, and data-driven discipline. He represents a side of bodybuilding that values health, longevity, and performance over social media clout. He's the guy telling you to think before you lift, to understand before you imitate, and to learn before you follow. So when Mike Israetel's science-based philosophy collides with Sam Sulek's raw, unfiltered, just lift and eat big energy, the contrast couldn't be sharper. One stands for meticulous research and controlled progression. The other thrives on instinct, emotion, and authenticity. One wants you to track every variable. The other says, just train hard, bro. It's a clash of eras. Old school grit meets modern science, and as both men continue to dominate the conversation in their own way, one thing becomes clear: when these two worlds overlap, sparks are bound to fly. This is where the story really starts to catch fire. What began as two men living in completely different corners of the fitness world slowly turned into a silent, simmering clash of ideologies, not just a difference in training methods, but in what fitness itself should mean. The first real signs of tension didn't come from a direct call-out or a dramatic exchange. There was no Mike versus Sam video or online beef. Instead, it was subtler, the kind of tension that builds through tone, timing, and interpretation. Mike Israetel, ever the scientist, began making pointed remarks about what he called ego lifting. Lifters obsessed with throwing around heavy weights without caring about form, range of motion, or progression. He talked about junk volume, sets that look impressive but do little for actual muscle growth. He stressed the importance of controlling every rep, of respecting biomechanics, and of understanding that more doesn't always mean better. He never named Sam directly, but the internet did the math. At that point, Sam Sulek was everywhere, his clips flooding TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. He was performing brutal, heavy, explosive workouts, hammering weights with reckless abandon, doing partial reps that looked more like controlled chaos than textbook technique. His followers saw passion. The critics saw poor form and potential injury. So when Mike started preaching about the dangers of influencers lifting heavy with no control, the timing was too coincidental to ignore. Fans caught on immediately. Comment sections filled with speculation. He's definitely talking about Sam. Is this a shot at the new guy? Mike's just jealous because Sam's views are crushing everyone's. And just like that, the line between education and entertainment blurred. It wasn't just Mike noticing. Sportskeeda covered Greg Doucette's criticism of Sam's train until collapse mentality, warning fans to leave their ego at the door. Doucette, a veteran of the IFBB circuit and known for his blunt delivery, argued that what Sam was promoting, the raw no-limits approach, could easily lead to injuries, overtraining, or burnout. And while he didn't dismiss Sam's discipline, he made one thing clear. Copying Sam's approach was a shortcut to the hospital, not the Olympia. That's when Reddit exploded. Entire threads dissected Sam's training clips, comparing his form to Mike's textbook demonstrations. Some defended Sam with fiery passion, saying his physique was proof that you don't need overcomplicated scientific routines to grow. Others backed Mike and Greg, arguing that science wasn't just theory, it was protection. It was what separated a 2-year physique from a 10-year legacy. Suddenly, this wasn't about sets and reps anymore. It was about philosophy. Sam Sulek's philosophy is brutally straightforward. Lift heavy, eat big, grow. His motto could practically be, eat big to get big. He doesn't dissect biomechanics or calculate optimal recovery windows. He just trains brutally, consistently, and instinctively. His science is visual. If he looks bigger, stronger, and fuller, the method works. To millions of young lifters, that simplicity is refreshing. It's authentic. It feels real. In a world full of overcomplicated programs and evidence-based jargon, Sam's message is primal. Outwork everyone. But to Mike Israetel, that mindset is exactly what's wrong with modern fitness culture. Mike's entire career is built on the belief that precision beats passion when it comes to long-term success. In his eyes, lifting isn't about moving weight. It's about moving it with purpose. He preaches meticulous technique, controlled tempo, and measurable progression. He encourages lifters to track data, monitor fatigue, and respect recovery as much as training itself. His entire approach is built around optimizing results, hypertrophy through structure, not chaos. To Mike, watching someone like Sam train is like watching someone drive a Ferrari with no brakes. Thrilling, but destined for disaster. So when clips of Sam performing massive half reps or grinding through dangerous intensity started going viral, the evidence-based community saw red flags. They worried that Sam's growing influence might convince younger lifters that reckless intensity equals results, when in reality, it often equals injury. Mike, Greg, and others began subtly pushing back, emphasizing safety and efficiency over spectacle. But here's the paradox. Every time they critiqued, Sam's fanbase grew even stronger. The backlash only made him more of a folk hero. He became the symbol of anti-establishment fitness, the guy who didn't need a PhD or a perfect range of motion to look superhuman. To his fans, Mike Israetel represented the establishment, charts, graphs, and whiteboards. Sam represented the rebellion, sweat, hunger, and instinct. This divide wasn't just philosophical, it was cultural. It split the fitness community right down the middle. On one side stood the scientists, methodical and data-driven. On the other stood the warriors, raw and emotional. And in between was the audience, torn between admiration and skepticism. The irony? Both men are preaching dedication, discipline, and self-improvement. They're just speaking different languages. Mike's is measured, logical, and structured. Sam's is chaotic, visceral, and magnetic. But the internet thrives on conflict, and this quiet clash between science and passion became one of the most talked about undercurrents in modern bodybuilding. And it didn't stop with training style. If there's one thing that defines the modern fitness landscape, it's that muscles alone don't make you famous. Algorithms do, and few people have mastered that better than Sam Sulek. His rise wasn't just about what he lifted in the gym, it was about how the internet lifted him. Sam's follower growth has been nothing short of explosive. One year, he was just another gym rat filming his workouts on a phone. The next, he was a social media juggernaut pulling millions of views across YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. According to The Guardian, his rise is part of a new wave of fitness influencers who blend raw authenticity with extreme physiques, captivating audiences not just with what they do, but how real they seem doing it. No filters, no scripts, no coaching seminars, just sweat, size, and honesty. But that kind of fame comes with a price. When you build a brand on being the biggest and most intense, there's constant pressure to outdo yourself, to lift heavier, eat more, train harder, and stay ahead of every other influencer chasing the same audience. Sam's growth, both physical and digital, became a self-sustaining loop. More muscle meant more views, and more views meant more incentive to push even further. And as his fame grew, so did the microscope. Every clip, every comment, every calorie suddenly became content and controversy. For Mike Israetel, the dynamic was completely different. Mike's influence didn't explode overnight. It was built over years of lectures, seminars, and research. His audience came for the science, not the spectacle. He's the kind of educator who plays the long game. Slower growth, fewer viral spikes, but a far deeper foundation of respect and trust. His fans aren't just followers, they're students. They buy his books, use his programs, and cite his advice in debates. While Sam's audience runs on adrenaline, Mike's runs on authority. That's what made the tension between the two worlds so intriguing. Sam represented speed, fast growth, fast content, fast fame. Mike represented stability, slow, deliberate, sustainable evolution. And when those two models collide in the same space, it's only natural that comparisons and conflicts arise. On Reddit, fans started whispering about what they called a quiet beef between the two. One post summed it up perfectly. There's no official beef, but in typical Mike Israetel fashion, he was criticizing Sam's training style or methods for YT content. It wasn't open warfare, but it was enough to set the internet buzzing. Some people accused Mike of clout chasing, saying he was using Sam's fame to boost his own channel. Others defended him, arguing that Mike was simply staying true to his mission, calling out unsafe or ineffective training habits, no matter who was behind them. But the perception stuck. In the age of social media, even indirect criticism feels personal. And as Sam's name continued to dominate fitness headlines, Mike's comments, whether intentional or not, began to sound like shots fired. The tension wasn't just philosophical anymore. It was personalized by the online audience watching every move, reading every caption, dissecting every statement. For fans, this was more than a debate about form or science. It became entertainment. The Mike versus Sam narrative turned into a storyline of its own. The old school scholar versus the new school star. The educator versus the entertainer. The controlled versus the chaotic. And while neither man publicly called out the other, the digital divide between their fan bases only grew wider. The scientists accused the rebels of recklessness. The rebels accused the scientists of jealousy. And the comment sections turned into battlegrounds. But then something changed. Mike broke his silence. For months, Mike Israetel stayed silent, or at least that's how it looked from the outside. He watched the rise of Sam Sulek play out across social media, with fans hailing Sam as the new face of modern bodybuilding. But as the noise around Sam grew louder, the whispers about Mike's opinion grew even louder. Everyone wanted to know, what does the scientist think of the sensation? And then finally he spoke. It wasn't during some fiery YouTube feud or a pointed Instagram rant. That's not Mike's style. The moment came more subtly, during a podcast and a few Q&A sessions on his YouTube channel, where fans asked him directly about the rise of influencers who don't train scientifically. Mike didn't drop names, but anyone familiar with the ongoing conversation could see exactly where the comments were aimed. He started by addressing the growing divide between evidence-based training and what he called entertainment-based training. He said there's a dangerous trend of lifters prioritizing social media performance over long-term progress, a clear nod to the viral high-intensity workouts that have made Sam a star. Mike explained that while extreme training may look motivating online, it often does more harm than good when replicated by inexperienced fans. He talked about junk volume, those extra sets and half reps that look impressive on camera, but don't translate to measurable growth. He emphasized that proper range of motion, control, and recovery aren't optional, they're essential. His tone wasn't angry, it was disappointed, almost fatherly, as if he were watching the sport drift away from the science that once defined it. At one point, he even addressed the influencer culture more directly. The problem isn't that these guys train hard, it's that they make hard training look like the only variable that matters. You can go all out every day, but if your execution is poor and your fatigue isn't managed, you're not getting better, you're just getting tired. It was a statement that sent shockwaves through the community, not because of what he said, but because of who people thought he was talking about. Fans immediately flooded the comments, dissecting every line, every tone shift, every possible hint. On Reddit and fitness forums, the debate reignited. Was Mike Israetel finally calling out Sam Sulek? The reaction was split right down the middle. Some praised Mike for standing up for science, applauding his willingness to speak truth in a world dominated by hype. They argued that his criticism wasn't personal, it was necessary, that someone had to draw a line between what's educational and what's purely performative. But others weren't buying it. In one heated Reddit thread, a commenter summed up the backlash bluntly. He's a jealous little know-it-all. Says all Sam does is throw weight around. Dude can't stand that someone younger and bigger is getting all the attention. That sentiment spread fast. To many of Sam's loyal fans, Mike's critiques sounded less like education and more like envy. The voice of an older generation frustrated that the new wave of influencers was winning the game without playing by the rules. Meanwhile, Sam himself stayed quiet. No response videos, no direct comments, no defensive posts. His silence spoke volumes. Whether it was indifference or strategic restraint, it gave him the upper hand in the eyes of his fans. Mike looked like the intellectual critic, while Sam came off as the carefree prodigy who didn't need to engage because he was too busy lifting. But beneath the memes and debates, a deeper truth was becoming clear. This wasn't just a personality clash or a matter of professional jealousy. It was a battle between two paradigms, between the scientific method and the social media moment, between structure and instinct, between data and dopamine. And as the tension built, it became obvious that this debate was about far more than lifting weights. It gets deeper than just lifting weights. The tension between Mike Israetel and Sam Sulek might look on the surface like a clash between two personalities, a scientist and a sensation, but in reality it speaks to something much bigger. This moment has become a mirror reflecting one of the biggest divides in the modern fitness industry, the rise of influencer culture versus the persistence of scientific authority. In the past, knowledge and experience determined who people trusted. If someone had a PhD, a coaching resume, or a track record with elite athletes, their advice carried weight. But now the internet has rewritten the rules. Followers, likes, and virality are the new credentials. And that's exactly where the tension lies. Mike represents the slow, evidence-based path to mastery, while Sam represents the lightning-fast, algorithm-fueled rise of the modern fitness icon. This shift raises some difficult moral and ethical questions, ones that the industry can't seem to stop arguing about. Are these rapid, dramatic transformations healthy? Is the eat big to get big approach sustainable? Or is it a ticking time bomb for long-term health? And perhaps most controversially, are these physiques, the ones millions of young fans are idolizing, entirely natural? Let's be clear, there's no proof, no confession, and no direct accusation from either side. But the whispers exist. Whenever someone gains size at an unbelievable rate or maintains an extreme level of leanness year-round, the question inevitably surfaces. The truth, of course, is murky, and that's exactly why the debate keeps burning. Sam's camp says it's just hard work and genetics. Mike's camp insists that without structured programming, recovery tracking, and long-term planning, that kind of progress simply isn't sustainable. It's not just a disagreement about how to train. It's a debate about what fitness really means. Mike represents the control and science side of the spectrum. To him, fitness is about longevity, structure, and precision. He wants lifters to understand why something works, not just imitate what looks cool online. His philosophy is about mastering your body like a system. Track the data, respect recovery, and earn your progress through measurable adaptation. Sam, on the other hand, represents the results and influence side. To him, it's not about perfection, it's about passion. It's about showing up, lifting hard, eating harder, and letting the results speak for themselves. His fans love him precisely because he makes bodybuilding feel accessible. He's not reading studies or citing journals, he's living proof that you can build a physique through effort alone. To them, that's far more inspiring than spreadsheets and scientific formulas. But this dichotomy creates confusion for the average viewer trying to navigate the endless flood of online fitness advice. Who do you trust? The expert with credentials and controlled methodology, or the influencer who looks the part and makes it all seem so simple? The truth probably lies somewhere in between, and that's the real takeaway for anyone watching this unfold. Fitness shouldn't be about choosing sides. It should be about understanding that discipline and data can coexist with passion and instinct. The key is balance, knowing when to push harder, when to rest, and when to question the advice you're consuming online. If something sounds too extreme, whether it's a perfect scientific formula or a no-limits grind, it probably is. In the end, the clash between Mike Israetel and Sam Sulek is more than a feud. It's a reflection of where the entire industry stands right now, caught between the world of instant influence and the world of slow, proven science. And the question everyone's asking is, which one will win? So what comes next? In the end, this story isn't just about two names, it's about two worlds colliding. On one side, you have Sam Sulek, the raw, unapologetic force of the new generation, a lifter who built an empire out of authenticity, intensity, and sheer willpower. On the other, Mike Israetel, the voice of precision and science, a man who spent decades turning fitness into a disciplined craft grounded in research, data, and structure. Their intersection was inevitable. One represents the emotion of the gym, the sweat, the grind, the chaos. The other represents the logic, the study, the control, the method. When those two philosophies met, it didn't just create friction. It created a conversation the entire fitness community needed to have. Because beneath the memes, the debates, and the forum posts lies a much deeper question. What kind of fitness world are we building? One led by influencers and algorithms, or one grounded in evidence and sustainability? And now that Mike's silence has finally been broken, you have to wonder, is this the start of a shift? Could his willingness to speak out mark the beginning of a new era in the influencer gym world, where entertainment finally collides with accountability? Or will the unstoppable momentum of social media continue to shape what we call fitness in the modern age? Either way, one thing's certain, this moment forces all of us to take a step back and reflect, to question not just who we follow, but why. Are we chasing knowledge or chasing hype? Are we training smart or just training hard? Because at the end of the day, every rep, every meal, every choice adds up to something, not just in muscle, but in mindset. So stay tuned, because the next move might come from Sam or Mike.